right, we are live. Is anybody there? Okay. Well, this is being recorded, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome everybody to the first WLC 2019 Leadership Live Chat. We'll be offering 2 of these for all of you this year. My name is Angie Magazzino, and I am the 2019 WLC Chair. So it's nice to meet some of you and see some of you as well. High level, I just want to let you know that the intention of tonight is really to provide information, clarification, and transparency to all of you who are our hopeful volunteers for this year's WLC. You're going to have a chance to hear from all of the leadership team members tonight about our positions, about our philosophy on how we got to these positions, and the application process. But most importantly, you can connect with us through the live chat feature on YouTube. So it's really great if you can leverage that. Send us your questions, your comments. Grace is going to be our moderator tonight, so she'll be dropping in every once in a while to make sure that we're asking these questions live and answering them in real time. But before we go too far into tonight, let us introduce ourselves. So as I said, my name's Angie. I'm the chair this year at WLC. I am a 2001 alumna from Eastern PA Hobie and the WLC. I volunteered in various capacities, mostly spending my time as a facilitator at local conferences as well as WLC, and then eventually at WLC getting a chance to serve as a section leader, as the vice chair of program, and the vice chair of ambassador staff. So it's been about 10 years at WLC for me, and I'm really, really excited to be able to lead this effort this year. So with that, I'll introduce you to the rest of our team. Melvin.
Melvin, my dear friend, you're still muted. I'm sorry.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Melvin Thomas. I am excited to be on this year's WLC 2019 team as the assistant to the chair. I am an alumni from Mid-Florida in 2001. I also have been a WLC volunteer for a number of years, in fact, 8 years, serving in the role of facilitator and most recently in the role of section leader. I'm super excited to be a part of this awesome leadership team. And now I'm going to hand it over to Kate.
So thanks, Melvin. So I am Kate Gilbert. I am actually not an alumni of Hobie, but I have been volunteering for about 10 years. And the site I first started volunteering with is here around Chicago, so it's Illinois North. I am the Vice Chair of Global Relations this year, more of which you'll hear in a little bit. And I have been, this will be my 8th WLC, and I have been in a variety of roles from facilitator to counselor to special events and Vice Chair program and section leader. So it's been great to work with a lot of the other leadership team in other capacities and to be piloting this role this year. So now kick it over to the next person.
The next person is me. Hello, my name is Juan Mendizabal. I'm a 2007 Mid-Florida alumna, but I claim South Florida as home, #controversial. At the local level, I have had the honor to be an LSC at South Florida, and some of my favorite director roles have been with program and facilitators. And then I started at the WLC in 2014. And I was a facilitator my first year, was on the program team with some of the lovely leadership team folks we have on this call right now, and was a section leader as well. So very, very excited to be back in this new role. And next is Drew.
Hi, everyone. My name is Drew Granucci, and I'm a 2004 Connecticut Hobie and WLC alum. This is my 13th year as a WLC volunteer. I've held a ton of different roles. I spent 9 years working on operations with team alumni, and I, for the past 3 years, served as a section leader with ambassador staff. This year, I'm excited to be the vice chair of ambassador staff. And I look forward to working with an amazing team this year.
Hey folks, I'm Celeste. It's lovely to see everyone. I'm the Vice Chair of Programs. I went through Hobie, Illinois. I've done a bunch of facilitation across the Illinois sites, a bunch of program work there, and have been with the WLC in some capacity since 2011, doing everything from day volunteering to like a giant potpourri of ops jobs. I'm super stoked to be transitioning to the vice chair of programs. Yeah, I'm gonna turn it over to Fucci.
Hello, I am Jared Fucci. I serve as the Vice Chair of Operations. I am a 2007 Hobie South Florida alumni. Also have the privilege of serving as the LSC in South Florida. And I'm excited to be serving the operations team again. This is my third year as the Vice Chair of Operations. I've had the chance to work and learn from some incredible individuals that are on this team this year. We're excited to work with you and to put on the best WLC that there's been yet.
All right, hey, so I'm also moderating on the side, and there's people from Argentina watching. Hey, Lizzie, so excited. So my name is Grace. I am the Vice Chair of Marketing this year. I am a 2009 Hobie Illinois Central South alum and have been volunteering at the local level at Central South and the past couple years at Illinois North. Last 2 years I was the LSC at Illinois North. I've been volunteering at WLC since 2010, but I took the last 2 years off, so I'm really excited to get back in the mix and meet all the new people. I've kind of bopped around from different things. The last position I had at last WLC I was at was the social media manager. So I'm really excited to kind of transition back into the marketing and publicity team. So holler with any questions in this group chat here, y'all.
Thank you, everybody. I cannot tell you enough how exciting it's been to work with this leadership team. We decided to move forward with putting the leadership team in place a few months earlier than we usually do with the WLC this year. And these folks have been working hard and burning the midnight oil already on Hobie since September. This is a power team, if you couldn't hear, based on their experience and all that they bring to the table. And I want to shed a little bit of light right now on our organizational chart for 2019. So when everybody came on board to leadership team, the first thing we talked about was making sure that we take a hard look at each team and ensure that everybody is really being given the opportunity to be in the best possible volunteer position. What that meant is that the leadership team actually conducted several informational interviews with folks that served in their capacity in the past or in similar capacities, or even just served on that team in previous years. From there, they came forward and they said, these are the positions that we think make sense based on the information that we're getting on what happens at WLC. And from there, you see the org chart that we've presented to many of you through our informational document, through the Facebook group, and through other sources. So you'll see that a lot of positions maybe have shifted slightly. Some have been combined, some have been removed altogether, and other positions are brand new. So each leadership team member tonight is here to answer your questions about these specific teams, and this is a great time as we talk through the various capacities of our big changes to leverage that chat feature and let us know what clarification that you need. But I'm gonna start off by passing it back over to Juan so that he can tell you a little bit more about the genesis of inclusive wellness.
The genesis, how profound. So I did not announce this whenever I said my name, but I am the Vice Chair of Inclusive Wellness. And if you've been at the WLC before, you might be wondering, what even is that? That is brand new. And if you're wondering that, then I will announce the genesis. So whenever we exited last WLC, I think we had kind of noticed that there were a lot of volunteers who were having some really important conversations about the culture of WLC, not just as this amazing program that volunteers and ambassadors get to experience, but also asking some higher level questions about what is the experience of that entire week beyond accomplishing things. How are we feeling at the end of the week? What do we have to navigate emotionally during a week that can be sometimes admittedly very heavy and challenging depending on your own positioning? So the Inclusive Wellness team was born out of the idea that even though we are all responsible for inclusion and promoting diversity and maintaining wellness, that this team could particularly be the ones to help other people hold themselves accountable to those standards and make sure that at the WLC we're not just completing our program, but also doing so while thriving and not just surviving. So I would love to talk about some of the roles on this team that will help make that happen. And you'll see that we have merged very intentionally the idea of inclusion and wellness together, because we think that some of the symptoms of fatigue that happen a lot at the WLC, because it is a week-long process, which can be difficult for people, that a lot of those symptoms of being unwell come from the same place. So we really want to merge this idea of a holistic care, looking at not only the physical health of the ambassador and the volunteer, but also the mental health, in alignment with how their identities are being represented or honored or lack thereof. So the first role that I would love to talk about is the Ambassador Care Director. This person is going to be a really important liaison between the parents or even the ambassador before they get to the WLC, to learn as much information about we can, essentially, about how to take care of them. So care is a really important word. How do we show love? By showing ambassadors that when they're in our hands, we will do the very best that we can to make sure that their needs are met, whatever that need is. And then maintaining that level of care throughout the week, and this collaborative approach on this team between the medics, which might have more of the front lines of the physical health piece, but also the wellness directors, which represent more of the mental health piece as well. So the Ambassador Care Director should have some experience knowing how to tie all of those pieces together. The next one is the wellness director. So historically, the last few years at the WLC, we have had a counselor on hand for anything that comes up during the program, or just your typical variety of people need to talk. They're impacted in certain ways. A week away from home can be a lot. So the wellness director is in many ways that counselor presence, and that is one part of their duty. But the other part is to be able to promote a culture of wellness for morale boosting, for checking in. It doesn't have to be anything treatment or clinical oriented, but just making sure that our culture is one that is allowing everybody, again, to thrive and not just survive. Then we have the inclusion director. So with the amazing work that Celeste is doing with the program and conversations we've already had for what inclusion might look like in a programmatic context and how we can represent even more people's lived experiences, the inclusion director will be one person in that effort, along with myself, trying to train and recruit and make sure that our materials, along with really the effort of this entire leadership team, that we are doing our very best to do a good 2018 version of what diversity and inclusion should look like in an organization like ours that values diversity and equity as a core value. And then the very last one is the medic role. The medics are really, really, really important. I would love to see them be used not just as somebody who can be on the front lines of medical emergencies or physical health, but also people who can help diagnose the culture of wellness and understand in the program what's going on, how our ambassador is affected at certain times during the day by certain things, and then informing the other team members of whatever they find. So I think that this could be a really amazing opportunity for us to work together on this team with other teams at the WLC, and for us to do our very, very best to make sure that we are leaving the week happy, healthy, not too exhausted, and feeling like we were seen and heard in that space. So I'm excited to answer any questions at any point in time for anybody who's interested in those things.
Awesome. Thank you, Juan. Great job. Kate, could you tell us a little bit more about global relations?
Yes, absolutely. So in a super vague, self-defining way, this role in this team is all about really building our relationships around the world. So in the same way that the creation of the inclusive wellness position is really intended to elevate the WLC experience, so is this addition of the global relations team, so that we can spend more time and put more efforts to get not only more people to the WLC, but make sure we're getting the right people and building better relationships that will help the WLC be more sustainable, so that we're not doing a whole lot of recreation or work from scratch every year, and that we can really start some practices that help us to grow in meaningful ways, not just in quantitative ways. And so with that, you might have seen from the org chart that there's a couple big kind of buckets of work that are going to fall under the global relations team. The first of which is recruitment, because again, the goal is really to put some effort and some additional work into getting ambassadors, and again, not just getting more ambassadors, but really looking at who are the students that are coming and experiencing the WLC. You know, kind of cross-balancing, are we getting a diverse group of students? Are we getting students that are really representing the whole United States and then also the whole globe? Or are we getting a really narrow group? So we're trying to, again, the recruitment is going to be focused not just on increasing numbers and making sure that we're really filling the capacity that we're working for every year at the WLC, but that we are really getting to know what it is our target interested in or looking for, getting to understand what both people around the United States, but also from around the world, what is the perception of Hobie, what are their interests, what might be appealing to them, and what may be some reasons that WLC is not appealing to them, so that we can either change our messaging or even kind of adapt our programming to make it a better fit for the whole group, knowing that we want the WLC to be a globally connected experience. So again, a lot of what we'll be doing is building more relationships so that our recruitment efforts and practices are once again more sustainable, and that it's not just sort of a couple of maybe random people who might hear of us in another country or find some connection and that's why they end up at WLC, but that we're really building more partnerships with schools and organizations in other parts of the world who want to send students on a regular basis and can start to bring the Hobie and the WLC culture back to their own communities and continue to have like a bigger effect with the program. The next big area is going to be fundraising. So this isn't necessarily raising money in order to put the WLC on, but instead it's really helping us to reduce costs in certain areas by soliciting gift-in-kind donations, and then really spending some time raising money for specifically scholarship funds for students both domestically and internationally who need that extra financial support in order to experience the WLC. We recognize that the financial burden of attending is a barrier for some, and so we want, again, to be able to throw more work and more effort and more resources at balancing out that burden and not making that be a reason that someone isn't able to attend. And we recognize that the more money we're able to save through gift-in-kind donations, or the more money that we're able to raise and give out as scholarship, it allows us to use our money in a more meaningful way so that we may be able to do something for the program or something else related to the experience, both for the ambassadors and the staff, that make the whole WLC experience, again, more meaningful and more rich and more relevant to everyone who's there. The last kind of general thing that's going to be happening on this team is really just building overall partnerships. So whether a lot of people may have seen the work that Hobie's been doing with Cushman and Wakefield, so it may be providing extra support there and figuring out how to deepen that relationship. It's going to be building a better and deeper relationship with our host university. It's going to be working kind of across the leadership team with maybe if there's a speaker who's coming for the program, figuring out how maybe we can expand even that relationship and coordinate with that person somewhere else within the WLC experience. So it's going to be deepening those partnerships and those relationships, but also building more relationships with parents and, again, the schools and other contacts who are stakeholders in the WLC experience. So the Global Relations team will be hosting webinars between now all the way through June for parents, for schools, for international organizations, for anybody who wants to learn about the WLC and ask questions and just get to know us. So that'll be another part of this team. So it's a whole lot of very brand new things. So we're definitely going to be learning a lot on the way as we go. And we know that, but it's also going to be really great to build something that hasn't existed before and to lay a really great foundation, again, that in all things that will help the WLC really grow in strong, meaningful, sustainable ways. So it's really exciting, and reach out to me if you have anything else, any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kate. We wanted to make sure that we talked about these two brand new teams on tonight's call because it's so important that folks know that we are looking for you to step up and to volunteer to be a part of these efforts. So although this is new and Juan and Kate are bravely leading us through a lot of the unknown this year, we're hoping that you'll raise your hand to be a part of the work that they're doing at WLC because as both of them have made very clear, it is necessary and good change to be focused on these efforts all year round. So with that being said, there's another major change that we wanted to talk about tonight specifically. So I'm going to pass the floor back over to Fuchi to talk a little bit about our junior staff.
Thanks, Angie. So if you haven't already noticed, this team is really focused on being super intentional about how we build the team, how our roles are formed, and how each and every volunteer plays an integral part of delivering a really successful WLC. And one of those we looked at was the role of our junior staff, so our 18 to 20-year-old volunteers. And formerly, you might have known those as your ASAs, your alumni section assistants, your TAs, your team alumni. But you can bid those terms farewell for the 2019 WLC and say hello to one whole junior staff that'll live under the operations team. And when we talk about that, we wanted to create a group of people and equity among the staff to eliminate redundancies. What are ASAs doing? What are team alumni doing? Which drove us to the point of one team that lives under operations, but still has such an integral part in the ambassador staff team, right? So more people are gonna have an opportunity to interact with ambassadors. Small groups of our junior staff are gonna be sectioned to sections, right? So it may look like a few junior staff assigned to a specific section. So they can get to know that section leader, get to know those facilitators, and even further get to know those ambassadors as a part of that section. It really builds increased opportunity for our 18 to 20-year-old volunteers. So you have that opportunity on junior staff and really creates a lot of priority around the tasks and opens up the broadband of what they'll be experiencing. So our junior staff will have an opportunity, like I said, not to just work on operations, but to get to work with Drew's awesome team on the ambassador staff side and cross-functionally across the entire WLC to make it happen. So a lot of really awesome opportunity there. And really a great place for our younger volunteers to have a place to call home. With that said, there's probably a lot of questions around junior staff. What does this look like? I have more questions. Where and how do I apply? We're going to do a junior staff specific call just like this one, date, time to be announced. But you can look forward to seeing more information about our junior staff in a few weeks.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think we have some questions coming in, so I'm going to pass it back over to the team.
We do. Wow, this feels like election night on like some news channel. All right, so we do have a question that's coming in on my invisible earpiece, and that is from Nick. So Nick has asked, for me, thoughts on incorporating affinity spaces for folks of different races, ethnicities, gender, identities, and sexual orientations and other group affiliations throughout the week. So something that I would love to talk about is how we have made an attempt to begin those sort of things last year. So a beautiful, spontaneous, wonderful room for progress, but still got the job done piece last year for people who were there was what we informally dubbed the Identity Dinner. And there were a lot of wonderful folks that were influential in creating that process. I will give a shout out to Lennox Cohen for being one of the first people to plant the seed of that idea, and then some other wonderful volunteers, Shauna and Keisha, and others for really developing that. So in collaboration with them, we decided, wouldn't it be cool if one night during dinner, we could get people to self-identify in certain groups so they could feel whatever that feeling is, if you feel like you have not gotten the support from people who maybe you just don't have to explain these things to, or that maybe understand your experience a little bit more without the translation. And so we were able to identify some groups for some of those social identities that Nick had mentioned in the question, and pairing staff actually with ambassadors who identified that same way. So they had the opportunity to share a meal together, and loosely around the prompt, what does it feel like to be you given this identity in the Hobie space? And as you can imagine, there were some really powerful conversations that came from that dinner, and not all of them were positive ones, because for different people, it can be a very challenging experience to navigate a Hobie space without considerations to different intersecting identities. So what we learned from that, and what I think we would love to take into this year, is that giving people time and space to be and to find resonance and to build community outside of a formal program structure is essential to the wellness of our ambassadors and staff throughout the week. And I don't know that we have a vision of what that looks like right now for what affinity groups could look like, but I do know that we do plan to continue that dinner, and I think it could be really exciting to roll that into other programmatic elements, once again, just to make sure people feel like they're being supported and have that space to just be. So thank you so much for that question, and we will definitely figure out lots of opportunities to integrate that.
Awesome. Kate, I believe there's a question for you.
Yes. Thanks, Lizzie. Hi, Lizzie. Lizzie was asking for a little bit more information about the recruitment positions on the team. So again, in the effort of true transparency and honesty, we did kind of build out a shell for what this team could look like, knowing that there could be some flexibility if there's a whole lot of people interested in supporting recruitment. Seeing that it is going to be a completely virtual position that exists just in all of the months prior to the WLC. So right now, what we've identified is our three primary recruitment directors who are focused on regions of the globe that have been identified as really, quite honestly, the best kind of ROI for our human resource to be spending time towards. So based on kind of looking at where we may already have some Hobie programming or already have some inherent interest that we've seen students coming from, and also looking at sort of visa ease and really access for students. We've identified that there will be a recruitment director for the continent of South America, and then a recruitment director for the continent of Europe, and then a recruitment director for the US. So certainly the US and the international recruitment is going to look a little bit different. The US recruitment is going to be focused on, again, kind of making sure that our representation from across the United States is present, and also just helping to support the influx and the completion of registrations from ambassadors around the US, also to make sure we have some sort of balance between the 2018 alumni who are still eligible to attend in 2019, and then in addition to the 2019 alumni who will be coming in next spring and summer. The international recruitment is really going to be focused on, again, kind of building a database, for lack of a better word, but building a list of potential schools, individuals, maybe organizations who work with the students that we are looking to bring to WLC, so the high school, the sophomore age range, and reaching out to them to get to know, if they've heard of Hobie, are they interested in this event, why or why not? And again, just kind of getting to know what their needs are and what their interests may be. And then certainly the sort of end goal will be to secure some registrations. But like I said up front, the recruitment is really going to be focused on getting to know our audiences and what kind of our ambassador targets and group really looks like, and what they can really benefit from, and why they may not be attending WLC at this point. So I don't have a whole lot of other details right now, but it'll be kind of, I would say, standard recruitment work if you've ever done recruitment for a local seminar or for another organizations. But it's really going to be just about reaching out, sending a lot of communications. It will be some sort of email work, but certainly some maybe video call or phone call, so that folks can really feel like we are accessible and approachable, and ask us questions and have conversations about the WLC that may not be able to be had strictly via email.
Perfect. So we're taking in more questions, and I think we have a few for Drew Granucci. So Drew, if you could take the floor.
Sure. Okay. Hi, everyone. So we had a question about facilitating and how the role at WLC compares to facilitating at a local Hobie seminar. There's certainly a lot of similarities in terms of working with your actual group. You will have a similar size group probably to a local seminar. The big difference really is that this is a marathon, whereas a local seminar is more of a sprint where you can kind of go all in for 3 days. But this is a 7+ day program, and you kind of have to pace yourself. You have to be available and on for your ambassadors throughout the week, and that can be a challenge. And we're looking this year to make sure that we're supporting facilitators in a way that helps them be their best selves throughout the week, not just at the beginning of the week. So facilitating at WLC is an amazing opportunity. You have the rock stars from seminars all over the country and all over the world, really. So it's an amazing opportunity. It's a lot of fun. It's all of the great things that you have at your local seminar, you will have times 100 at WLC because of the quality of ambassadors that we have there. And then I believe there's another question from Tony about how JStaff may affect SASA. The changes will affect SASA. So SASA will continue to play an integral role at WLC. It'll go under a little bit of a rebrand. We're going to call it the Senior Ambassador Staff Assistant instead of Alumni Section Assistant. And they will continue to work with the junior staff and help us to coordinate the involvement of junior staff in the program with the ambassadors during group time, doing cheers. But it will be more of an approach with a larger team where we're moving people in and out throughout the week and working with the director of junior staff and the junior staff manager who will work more closely with the operations side, but SASA will kind of be our liaison to the junior staff, if you will. But they will also continue to work really closely with the program team, be involved in program protocol and kind of the general flow of the WLC throughout the week. And I'm really excited to have SASA continue to be a part of the junior staff or the ambassador staff team, working closely with the junior staff.
And to piggyback off Drew, it looks like there's another question regarding junior staff. And so the question is if there's anything that y'all should know about the application process that may be tricky. No, the application process is just like everything else this team has done, is extremely well thought out and intentional. So there's really it's not intended to be tricky. It's not intended to be in any way, shape, or form difficult to fill out. It's simple, it's straightforward. We just want to get a chance to get to know you. And based off of that, we'll let you know when a time is good to chat, and we'll have a conversation with the director of junior staff and the junior staff manager, and ultimately make decisions from there. But nope, no tricks. Nothing difficult. We just want to see a really awesome, healthy applicant pool of great candidates.
Wonderful. So thank you for all your questions. Keep them coming. We haven't spotlighted program or the marketing team yet tonight, so feel free to weigh in with any of your questions that you have about those teams or those roles. For now, I'm going to pass the floor back over to Drew, actually, to tell you a little bit more about the application process.
All right, great. So hopefully you have seen at this point the application has been posted. It's been posted since early November in a variety of places. It can be found on the Hobie website. It's posted in the volunteer Facebook interest group and in several other locations that you can find the link for that. But in terms of the application process and how to apply, if you're thinking about which positions would interest you, I would really take a look at the document that Angie put together in terms of the org chart as well as the position descriptions, because the leadership team tried to really clarify all of the roles and give a good description of what your experience would be like in that role during the week, as well as the preparation that could take place beforehand. We've also aligned some of the dates, which Celeste will talk more about, in terms of responsibilities that you would have prior to the WLC. So pay attention to as well the age requirements, and we also, for some roles, are looking for specific skills. So that can be really helpful if you have a particular background in terms of your job or personal life that can contribute to the WLC, or if you have a background at a local site that will really help enhance our staff at WLC. So take a look at those requirements for each role. We do have roles as well for staff who are turning 21. I know that has been a little bit of a dead spot in some years in the past in terms of roles at WLC, but we do want to make sure that our great volunteers who have been with us throughout the past 2 or 3 years on junior staff have the opportunity to continue volunteering with us. So we are looking forward to having some opportunities available to them if they do not have the chance to get the facilitator experience in that first year. So in terms of the actual application, we encourage you to apply for the position that you're most excited about as your first choice. And don't hesitate to really put yourself out there. You do not have to be asked to apply for certain positions. I think that's a misconception that we've seen out there. If you feel like, hey, I want to take a stab at this, like, put your name out there, because there's so many people that are interested in WLC that for us as the leadership team, sometimes we just haven't thought of certain individuals who would actually be really great fits for certain roles. So definitely take a chance, and if nothing else, it will lead to hopefully a conversation about your interest in terms of moving forward into different roles at WLC. And there's also been some questions around how to format the application to the roles that you're applying to. We would encourage you to kind of format and focus your essay questions toward the role that you are most interested in. But we will certainly have opportunities to discuss other roles as well. But for the purposes of filling out those essays in the application, you can kind of focus in on that to make it a little simpler. And that's an overview of the application process. I think I'm going to hand it off to Melvin.
Thanks, Drew. Great overview. So now we want to talk a little bit about the selection process. As we are seeking higher transparency at WLC this year, one of the ways that we're going to be doing that is by providing you more information about the actual selection process for WLC 2019 volunteers. So after you apply, the vice chairs will review all applications for a position, regardless of whether you indicated if it was your first, second, third, or even fourth choice. The vice chairs will select a few candidates to interview for that specific position. After conducting those interviews, the vice chairs will work together to place volunteers in the best possible position. Once those positions have been determined, vice chairs will reach out to let all candidates that applied to that position know the outcomes of that selection, and ultimately let the candidate that was selected for that role know that they've received that role. We do encourage you at that point, if you were not selected for a specific position that you were interested in, we give you the opportunity right then and there to actually update your application and change your preferences for a different role on the WLC team. So we're hoping this year, by providing more transparency into the process, we will share with you and be able to place the best possible team, which we know in our process this year, because we have a few new roles. There are opportunities for us to kind of express our interest and be mindful of the fact that folks, you might not be in your number one role, but we're being mindful of the overall team composition. So that's a little bit more about the selection process. I'll hand it over to Celeste to talk about deadlines.
Hey folks, we've got 3 major deadlines for you to be thinking about. They are conveniently super duper easy to remember. So the first deadline is December 1st. The second deadline is January 1st. And the third deadline is February 1st. We're onboarding positions this year in sort of the order of pre-seminar time commitment. So the first deadline, that December 1st deadline, is going to be most of our director level positions and section leaders. The second deadline, the January 1st deadline, is going to be looking at most of the manager level positions. And then that final deadline, February 1st, is all of our other positions, kind of most famously the JSTAF positions. If you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, Celeste, but what if I want to be a section leader or a house manager, which is a killer position that everybody should look into, or the programs assistant. Maybe I want to be considered for all 3 of these things. Which of these deadlines should I be choosing? You should choose the earliest one that you would like to be considered for. As Melvin just said, you can go back in and edit should things not go your way on choice 1 to tailor yourself more towards choice 2 or 3 at those later deadlines. But please get your stuff in ahead of the deadlines. And, you know, the earlier the better. We love to read these things. It makes us happy. With that, I'm going to throw it over to Grace to talk a little bit more about other ways to get involved with Hobie at this stage.
All right, hey everybody, thanks for sticking with us. So just some quick ways that you can kind of connect with Hobie and keep on top of the deadlines that Celeste just touched on. We have a really great volunteer interest Facebook group. I am so sorry if y'all hear my dog barking. I put her in the front room, so many apologies. She's cute but loud. So anyway, so we have a Facebook group that we will, I'll link in the Facebook, or I'm sorry, the YouTube chat comments. And feel free to join that. We put a lot of really great information in there. We'll also do kind of get to know you vice chair live chats. So you can kind of get to know us on a more personal level too. Also, just like us on social media, y'all. We have Hobie WLC has a Facebook page that we are posting pretty regularly too, again with just updates on deadlines and staff announcements and things like that. Hobie Twitter and Hobie Instagram, both of those are just at HOBY. So definitely just give us a quick follow there. The hashtag for this year is Hobie WLC 2019. So be on brand, use that. And then any questions, we're always on social media in various capacities. So comment in that Facebook group, which again, I will link to in the comments on the YouTube chat you're watching right now. And in that Facebook group or on any posts that you see coming in your feed. Thanks so much.
Awesome. So we're going to open it up for Q&A right now. So this is your time to plug in a question. Let us know your thoughts. I'll start with a question that I'm going to answer by not answering. I saw earlier, Jasmine, you asked about the theme for this year. And while we have already been talking about what that might be, we are not ready to share that with the public yet. So hopefully you're excited to hear what it is we're talking about this year on that level. But it's really important to me and to this leadership team that we focus on Hobie and we really focus on what it means to be the World Leadership Congress as our first priority. And the theme is really just extra sugar on top. So I'm really excited to share with you what that is in a few weeks or months, but for now, it's still a secret. So that's my answer to that question. Celeste, I think it's up to you.
Awesome. What question should I answer, Angie?
Can you share more about the creative activity positions and?
Oh my God, I would love to share more about the creative activity positions. We've expanded them dramatically again because the creative activity rooms are such a lovely leadership lab for our students, such a wonderful self-reflective space. and such an amazing kind of transformative experience to take a break and turn off one side of your leadership mind and turn on a totally other side. So we've got all kinds of new stuff. I'm really, really excited about all of it. We've got an instrumental room. We've got a photography room. We've got a group talking about critical conversations around global art history and looking at the role of creativity in general life. So it's sort of a brainier, meatier look at creativity. We've got all your regular stuff. We've got your fine arts room and your choir. We've got it all. It's going to be amazing. Everybody's going to find something that they're like, whoa, I can't believe we've never done this. This is sick. And hopefully we're going to find so many incredibly creatively talented staff members to make that possible. Another thing about these roles, we are willing to consider them being combined with other on-site positions as they are not full-time activities. And we are thinking about how to be creative and flexible and make that super, super easy for all folks involved. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it there for now. Hit me up with more questions if you have them.
Perfect, thanks, Les. And I got a question from Amber, so hey girl, hey, about staff announcements. So we talked a lot about deadlines. Melly kind of talked about the process of how we are going to go about selecting our teams. Just to reiterate, staff announcements will be posted on social media because it's fun and like get hyped for sure. But just to reiterate, vice chairs will be communicating with those selected for their teams, phone call, email, text, however that vice chair would like to go about doing that. So once the teams are confirmed with the vice chair, then we will go ahead and do some baller posts on social media. So you will not find out by a Facebook post. You will be notified by your vice chair before that comes in.
So we're waiting on more questions from all of you. So feel free in these last few minutes here to pepper us with your inquiries. I'll touch high level on a question that I received from a volunteer prior to tonight's call. They had asked what sort of changes or differences we can expect this year at the WLC. I think overall, something that's most important to us on the leadership team is that we are doing things with great intentionality, and we're recognizing when we've learned important lessons in the past and how we can improve upon the lessons that we've learned. If it's not broke, we're not going to try to fix it. So for those of you that have been at the WLC, either as an ambassador or a volunteer, a lot of things will feel familiar and hopefully like a homecoming for most of you. But realistically at WLC, the two priorities that are most important to me is, of course, the ambassador experience, making sure that they're having a fun educational experience for the time that they're with us, that hopefully molds them and changes them in a way that they feel mobilized, that they can go out back into their home communities and affect things in a positive way. The other major priority for me, and I think I speak for the whole leadership team on this, is our team. We are very concerned about thinking about the staff, not just from what positions you all might fill, but from the moment that you step onto this team and you graciously offer us your time and talents, that we are making you feel cared for, appreciated, that your ideas matter, that your input is valuable. And so if you do get a chance to work with us this year, one of the biggest changes that hopefully you feel is even greater appreciation than you have in the past, and that you're taken care of by all of us here.
So it looks like another question for my team, which is really exciting. So just a reminder, hi, I'm Grace. I'm the vice chair of the marketing team this year. So one really cool thing about the marketing team specifically at the WLC level is that it was a really skills-based team. So as we were talking about, what we're looking for in applications and how we're looking at building the team, my team specifically is, so sorry about this dog, is really specific, like skills-based. So obviously, we all take some really great Insta shots on our iPhones, but we're looking for a professional photographer this year that has like event skills and things that they can bring to the table in that respect. So if you have any specific questions about what skills we're looking for, take a peek in the volunteer PDF that we've linked to in the YouTube comments. And any other questions, holler at me. But my team specifically, as kind of I've been scrolling through here, is a skills-based team. So take a peek at what skills and platforms we're looking for experience in. And any questions, holler at me. Looks like there's a question maybe for Juan.
Yes, so I'm going to jump on that train with you, Grace, about having a particular set of skills in mind and some professional skills. I think what's beautiful about this WLC volunteer staff is that there are some roles that volunteers can take where they want to challenge themselves to grow in different ways. So they might not have all of the skill sets at the beginning, but maybe they take that on to know that as a volunteer, as a professional, as a person, they would like to acquire some of those skills. And then I think there are some roles, and Grace's team is one of those examples where to have those skills already is actually going to be essential. And that's actually the same for the inclusive wellness team too. This wouldn't be a great time to aspire to be a medic. If you're not a medic already, for example, we would love for you to have those skills and competencies already. And so some of those positions are a little bit more rigid than others. But I would say for me overall on staff, something that is going to be really important for us to look for, not even just on the inclusive wellness team, is for us to remind ourselves all the time in every way that this is an international leadership seminar with people from multiple countries represented. So from many of our volunteers and most of our volunteers who are hosted in a US context or live in the United States, I think to be able to code switch and to be able to understand that the experience of at least usually 1/3 of our ambassadors not coming from a US context, that's going to translate differently in the way that we need to show up, the way that we need to speak, the way that we need to engage, and all of the cultural differences and norms that come with that, which is a really beautiful process. And it would be really difficult if somebody's showing up at the WLC without any experience or any knowledge about that whatsoever. So I think that's another example of something that we would love to hear whenever you interview with us. If you could talk about a time where you've had to flex that intercultural competency skill, or even for you to be transparent and say, here's what I think I can do right now, but here's what I would also love to learn how to do. Is it possible for me to be trained in that before the seminar starts? How can I grow into that? But acknowledging again that we are far beyond just a US-based seminar, even though we are physically hosted in the United States. So that'd be my contribution to that question.
Okay, I had a question about being interested in a few different roles and how to prioritize those. So obviously on the application, you do have to select an order. But I would encourage you, if you're, for example, equally interested in 2 or 3 roles, to reach out to the vice chairs and let us know about your interest and kind of what your thought process is around that. Also this year, I think it's new this year, but there's an option to select that you're interested in any role, just kind of an open option. And that can be a great thing if you are really up for whatever, you really want to come to WLC, but you're flexible about which role you might play on the team. So hopefully that will help with that question about being really interested in a few different roles. You can certainly verbalize that to us and we'll take that into consideration.
And Blake asked a perfect question to follow that, which is, will there be enough lead time between finding out that you haven't been selected for a role, let's say for a director position, so that you could adjust your application to be considered for a manager role? And the answer is yes. So essentially the leadership team will take about 2 weeks after every application deadline to conduct their interviews that Melvin described. After that point, we'll go through our approval process, because the volunteers do go through approval both as a leadership team and with our friends at Hobie International. And then at that point, you'll receive that email or phone call from the vice chair that oversees the position that you applied for, and they'll let you know if you've been selected. There should be at least a couple, about a week, if not two, where you could go back into your application and make changes. The other thing is, as you're having these conversations, don't feel pressure. This isn't a job interview. This is having a conversation with a fellow volunteer about your interest at the WLC. So don't hesitate to let somebody know, yeah, I raised my hand to be, the director of operations, but Jared, just so you know, I'd love to be anywhere on this team. Or if you don't choose me for this, I'm also really strongly interested in being the food and beverage manager. Don't feel any sort of pressure to perform for us. We just want to have a good conversation so that we can really find the best fit for everybody. So keep that in mind, because we absolutely want to make sure that we're finding everybody in their maximal capacity. Grace, how are we doing on questions?
We're all caught up on the YouTube questions. So if anyone else has, I think we're going to be wrapping up here in just a couple minutes. So last call for cues on the YouTube chat here. I can tell you what Betty is asking because woof, but otherwise I think we're good.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so I'm going to start to wrap us up here. Feel free, as Grace said, to continue to chat us. But basically, tonight's takeaways, hopefully you have some clarification about the leadership team's intentions behind our adjusted organizational chart. Additionally, hopefully you have all of your questions answered about getting your application in. We all love deadlines, but don't wait until the deadline to apply. As Celeste mentioned, our very first deadline coming up is December 1st. That is this Saturday. It's already December, everybody. So it's really time to sit down. It won't take you very long, but the application does time out every 20 minutes. And so if you look at the document that Grace is linking you to, you'll see a list of the questions and the information that you need prior to application to help you expedite that process and not let CVent time you out. So please get your apps in. Additionally, feel free to reach out to all of us. Grace will be posting some of our contact information for you in the WLC 2019 Volunteer Interest Facebook group. If you're not a member of that group, please reach out to me or any of the members of this team and we will add you. And if you think of anything else that you need, we're all here to help you and support you with that. I'm just catching up on our comments here. Guys, is there anything else we need to say before we sign off tonight? All right. Apply for the WLC. All right, perfect. So that is all we have for you this evening. Thank you for joining us, for being here. It's so exciting to see some of these names coming through the chat. I hope to see your application, and if you think of anything else you need, we'll be here. Thank you, everybody. Good night.